Hello and welcome to the next part of the resource editor tutorial. And we'll this time go over the last screen, which is the calculator screen of the application, and we'll try to implement that. Now, first thing before I start, you'll notice that we made a small redesign to the way themes are presented in the resource editor, and this is supposed to simplify how things are arranged here. Uh, they're laid out now in tabs where things are modified are marked, and others you just derive the base theme. This is supposed to make things simpler by reducing the amount of clutter in this page and in this page. As you can see, it's much simpler. Anyway, we'll go on with the GUI builder now and show you how we create the calculator screen. Now, I'll just add this page right here, and I'll drag in the tabs component. I'll make sure it's in the center of a border layout, which allows it to stretch over the entire screen, which is what's important here. As you can see now, it fills up the entire screen. Now you'll notice I'm not dragging containers into here, I'm dragging them into here, because right now there's nothing here. So I'm going to add the first container, the second container, and the last thing is really an HTML component, so I can just drag it straight in because there's nothing else there. So I'll just place it directly on top. As you can see, this is the last tab, it's just the HTML component. I'll just stick in the text for describing the HTML component right here in the body. And as you can see, I have a full-featured, very slightly featured HTML editor here. So I can just place the title, and then I can place a description of the recipe in question, and I can make the title bold like this. I can make it underlined if I want, or anything of that sort. And as you can see, this is really the HTML that's produced as a result of this, and this is how it will look in LWUIT. That's a preview of how it looks in LWUIT. This is a WYSIWYG editor from Swing, so obviously these two look quite different. That's how it looks. I can stick anything here if I want, it's not a problem. Now I'll go to the main tab and I'll add in a label. But first, this label is really the image that I'm expecting here. Now this is just a hard-coded image because this is what the application uses. It doesn't really change the text that's placed here, so there's no real need for a graph component. And as you can see, it looks like this. Now, I don't want the entire tab to scroll because this image is relatively large. I just want this tab to scroll. So I'm going to make the container scrollable on Y, and I'm going to disable scrolling in the form itself. So this way only this tab will scroll and these will stay on top. I hope I'm being clear. So if the user scrolls, the tabs will always stay in place because the container containing them isn't scrollable. But because the label is big for some phones, it would still be able to scroll because I've made its parent container scrollable. I hope that's clear. It's really simple when you put your thought into it. Now, first we'll edit the tab titles. I almost forgot to do that. I'll just go to them one by one, and it's ratio, calculator, and details. So ratio, okay, calculator, and details, like this. And I press OK, and they're up to date. That's cool. Now, the final form here, container, is a rather complex one. You see, it's really a table. I'm using a table layout right here. And I'm not using a regular table because a table layout offers me more flexibility here. So the more rows I don't need to define in advance because the GUI builder will increase the number as you place components in, but it won't change the number of columns for you. So I'm determining the number of columns here to be 3. And the first line is the set of titles, so I'll just drag in a few labels for the titles, and then I have a text field for the sum of how many entries there are, and then I have a combo box and another label in saying flour. So let's start editing. Quantity, unit, ingredient, and type. Quantity, unit, ingredient, and flour, like this. Now I don't want any text here. This is a number really, and I want this to be smaller. I want this to be like 10 columns. So that's that. And I want here to have various size ratios. So let's remove all of these. And I'll talk about lists in some other time. Right now I just want a string. So I'll place grams. And I'll place pounds, etc. And let's put in kilograms. Okay. So this is good. And now I can multi-select here. As you can see, I can modify them all together, even things with differing values. But I can also copy all of these and paste them like 3 times, like this. And as you can see, I've already surpassed the number of rows I've defined previously. So here I have water and yeast, if I remember correctly, and salt. I might have reversed these two. I can also edit these so they provide something meaningful, like flour amount. Although this is mostly meaningful for the developer using this later on. So this is pretty much the UI I would expect. Let's see it in the preview. Almost. I forgot from those to update this to link to the calculator. Here it is. And this needs to point at the calculator screen, and it does. And now, when we go from those, from red, we reach the calculator, which is cool. I need to define here a constant for form transition to be slide. And these are constants in the theme. These essentially allow you to define various globals in the application, like transitions. I want the transitions to act in this particular way or that particular way. You've got some of them can be application defined, some of them, just hard-coded in here, like where you want the menu, how you want things to behave, various things that the theme expects from the underlying platform. It's a very convenient feature. Now let's customize the tab pane. The tabs, sorry. This is the tabs component. So I'm going to pad it a bit. I want it to have some margin. So I'll just place margin on all of the sides so we can actually see what's going on behind, like this. And this is the tabs container. As you can see, I want it to be transparent. So tabs container, and I'll change it to be transparent like this. I don't want to derive the transparency, I want to have this transparency instead. And it should be transparent. For some reason it isn't. Maybe I'm missing something here. Well, this worked for me like 5 minutes ago or so. Maybe the tabs itself isn't transparent, so I might need to define it as transparent as well. Here we go. Now that works. Now I want to give the tabs a background because it shouldn't be transparent, because obviously this looks like that and I don't want that. So I'll just cut an image. Same as the round image, essentially, if you remember from previously. I'm not doing anything different. I just want one thing to look different, which is why I'm recutting this. Normally you don't want to recut. I want this portion to be square. I don't want it to be round on top. So to do this, I'll need to do something relatively simple. I'll do this, that. I'm doing it fast because obviously I went over most of the details. This is the detail I haven't went over. See this top area? I want to cut it. So I'll just crop the top. As you can see, it gets cropped, gets removed. And so the top is now square. And I'll just apply it to the tabs container, unselect it, and generate close. Great. See, the top is square. And that's pretty much it. Now I just want, and notice that things like this actually work with our tabs container. Now there's one thing that we still need to do that's implemented here, and that's customizing the tabs. Really, there's nothing to it. It's exactly like the rest of LWUIT, with one small difference. Here we have two styles: a tabs selected and a tabs unselected. So a tab selected, sorry. So we have tab style, which applies to this, and a tab selected style that applies to this. Now notice this isn't a focused option, because focus, the selected that we have here, applies to where the cursor is, where input would be sent. And technically we can select a different tab without actually moving to it. So that's why we have a discrepancy here. Other than that, this is the demo, and next time I'll go into more details on how to customize various things here and in different demos, but pretty much this is the same application as we have here, with very minor differences that are mostly designed, that are mostly simple and understandable once you understand this basic of how to accomplish this. Please feel free to ask questions in the feedback in the blog, and I will try to address such questions in future videos. Thank you for your time.